needs to be different what needs to be different with a virtual team? And actually, there are pros and cons about getting stuff done. And actually, if you lead a virtual team well enough, you find that they are more productive than a face-to-face team. But the reality is, what we don't do is do that leading the virtual team well enough, because we don't have the key elements of that. So regardless of where or how your team is, actually, it's about how you lead it and having these 4 ingredients. And these work whether you are virtual or face-to-face, but some of them are more important for virtual. So the right team. So with teams, you want to make them small. As soon as when you've got a virtual team with more than 5 or more members, you start to get something called social loafing, which is where people feel less responsible for the output and it gets harder for inclusive communication. When you talk about the right team, you want to pick people or develop in people good communication skills, high emotional intelligence, an ability to work independently, and the resilience to recover from crisis, conflicts, problems that inevitably rise. You need people who are able to delegate and adopt a coaching-based approach. And actually, one of the things that we hammer into our members, that actually one of the things when you are working with a team, you have to adopt that coaching approach. Because it just doesn't work if you're either micromanaging or abdicating, does it, Ashley? No, just doesn't work. But as a leader of the team, this is the bit where you need more trust in a virtual environment, because you can't look over anybody's shoulder. So part of your role as that leader is to foster that trust. That means showing your vulnerability. It means saying where you need help from the team. It means encouraging those little water cooler moments, but virtually. So Ashley, do I tell you what's going on in my mind most of the time?
Absolutely. So every morning in Monday.com, we all put into the chat box what we're up to for the day and what's going on. So that's our virtual water cooler.
Yeah. And do I tell you if I'm having a good day or a bad day?
Yes, you do.
Yeah. And you know I'm having a bad day because I haven't done that update yet.
Yeah, thank you. It's always busy on a webinar day, though, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I've got 2 webinars today. And the other thing as a leader, you have to encourage that open dialogue. So think about things like caring criticism, not going, you've done this wrong. I might suggest or think about this. Is there a different way we might do this? Instead of going, I think that's wrong, or you've done that wrong, or I don't like that. I don't do very well on that, do I, Ashley?
That's really putting me on the spot, isn't it? Look, because of the culture that's developed within the business, it works.
Yeah,
it just works. So it is about the culture and about that open door policy and having that relationship with your team. So yeah, you may feel personally that you've got some faults, but we all understand those, and it all works because you've got an open culture.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get the stuff you deserve, Heather. So
I know. The other thing is about, as a leader, to foster that trust, you need to be consistent. I'm consistently blunt. But also, the other thing, and I did this with Monday.com, didn't I? Where conflict has arisen, as the leader, you need to start the conversation with an apology for the part you played in it. I gave you a big apology, didn't I?
Oh yeah.
and could you feel angry with me for that?
Oh no.
No. It really nice when you feel this conflict starting. Apologise for how you caused the situation. Now, even if you go, but it was their damn fault. Remember, you've always got the apology of, I own this business. I have responsibility. Doesn't matter with, if something goes wrong, ultimately I have caused it. You can always apologize. But also it's about openly recognizing where individuals are fostering collaboration, community, and trust. It's about being really good at saying, well done. Every time you sign up a new member, what's the reaction you get from me, Ashley?
Well done.
You also then get when's the next one coming? But it's also, as a leader, you want to clarify goals and guidelines. And this is probably where when we've shifted into the virtual environment, we're probably suffering. And so what I mean by this is we've got to get a lot stronger about how do you want people to work? What processes or rules or systems do be used? So how many hours at the moment, Ashley, are we going literally through step by step on our sales process and onboarding system?
Yeah, it's almost an hour every day, and we're nowhere near the start, are we?
No, but we're really clear about how you and I are now working, or will be working.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have a bit of fun on Zapier.
Yeah.
You know, I get my kicks in strange ways, as I think Ashley will tell you. But also you've got to be really clear on what you want rather than get back to me on this. Those vagaries, or just revert to me on this, or, you know, what do you really want and when do you want it done? And a lot of the reasons why we have a problem with performance is we're not clear. You also, particularly in a virtual environment, you want the rules of team interaction, such as I want cameras on. But if we're on a call, please do not multitask and do emails. I'm the worst at that, aren't I, Ashley? You also want to give how quickly do I want people to respond to stuff? What happens if I don't get a response, particularly when we're using virtual project management tools and workflow tools like Center or Carbon? We need to set expectations of how quickly will we get a response. You know, I know with the part-time members of our business that if they're not working that day, I do not expect a daily update from them. But as a leader, you need to give this clarity. Now, we also talk about the right touch points as well. So within the club, we talk about the rhythm meetings, where these are daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly key meetings where you discuss both the day job, but also what's going on. And a lot of our members actually haven't they, particularly those that have got junior members of staff, are not just doing a daily huddle, they're doing a twice daily huddle.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that because obviously we're remote. So basically first thing in the morning and then first thing after lunch, just a quick catch up with everybody just to make sure everyone's fine and dandy.
Yeah, absolutely. They're also making sure you got the right touch points with the new team member. So we had a new temporary team member in who become a permanent team member. What happened on our first team meeting, Ashley? How long did we spend on team meeting and how long did we spend as a team getting to know each other?
Nothing on team meeting and all about gelling.
Us as a team, what we like, our values, what we like at our best, how people act, all of that sort of stuff. And you've got to get these touch points right. Also, when you're on board a new client, how will you update the team? What does that look like? We're working on that at the moment, Ashley, aren't we? But also an exiting team member or client, what is the process? How does that look like? What does that look like with this virtual environment? Most of us have not had the time to step back and really think about this. Now is your time, because if you don't get this right now, this will come back and bite you. And then finally, this is the pain that we're in at the moment, aren't we, Ashley? Getting the right technology. Because the reality is that if people are not in the office, they can start to work on whatever system works for them. And this is where you've got to be a really strong leader. And ideally, you're wanting to put the task management aligned with the comms channel, because it's really easy to see the conversation along with the actual task. But you also want to set up the comms channels where there's no actual task involved. And it's making sure that you reduce the number of systems so you have a single source of truth. But sometimes you might have 2 or 3 systems, because we're debating, where do we do our CRM before and after someone becomes a member, aren't we? Where do we do our actual management of member tasks and member communication? So we're doing that at the moment between you and I, because we're the key people in that conversation. But this is about you and the team getting really clear on what do we use and how do we use things. So what does this mean for you as a team leader right now? So as we've just been talking, it's really important that you have to say, this is how we're now going to work virtually. You've probably already done that to a certain extent, but probably how many, just put your hand up if you realize you now need to spend more time on this. Put your hand up. Absolutely. Chris, Kate, Sharbaz has, Jonathan has, Heidi, Coral has, absolutely. Joe has, James has, absolutely. Gavin has, James, absolutely. You have got to lead that. And actually, Ashley, we've always been a virtual business, but since this, have I stepped up my communications to the team?
Yeah.
And that's because we're in a time of uncertainty and turbulence. So it's actually important. And you run the business. So stop scrimping on, oh, well, we'll cut down the number of user licenses on this bit of software and you can save it. You know, it's no good if people can't use the right tools. We're going to hit performance. Now, one of the things we see this a lot, don't we, Ashley, is this upwards delegation, where what happens is a team member says, I can't do this. The owner then goes, all right, oh, don't worry, I'll do it. Or they go, oh, you just do it this way. Don't worry, I'll do it. And what you've got this upwards delegation. And we train our team members in that we train them to be helpless, don't we, Ashley?
Yeah.
We train them not to have initiative by going, oh, look, if you get stuck, come and come and talk to me. And then we just blurt out the whole answer. What we actually want to be doing is training them to take the initiative. So we still want them to come to us, but we want to adopt a coaching approach where you go, what have you considered doing? Who would you ask if I wasn't here to do that? If I was in a client meeting, how could you do this by yourself? And so what we want to do is get quite curious about, well, how do we do this if I wasn't here? What would your instinct tell you to do? Who would you go and call? And actually get them to talk you through how they would do something. And then ask them to go and do it again. Now, of course, this means that you want to have time on your side. That means you've got to have your workflow planned. But this is absolutely key, giving them a clarity of how much do I want to be involved and when do I want to be involved. And actually, Ashley, do you remember when you first joined, I was involved at every touch point in the sales process, wasn't I? Because you'd ring me up and go, I booked a growth accelerator call. And I go, that's great.
Now what do I do?
Yeah, now what do you do? And you go, oh, someone's booked 15 minutes in my diary. What do I talk to them about? Do we check in now when you've got a growth accelerator call?
No.
No. I trust you. And the key thing is everybody's on a journey. So as your staff get more and more experience, you can reduce the amount of time you need to spend with them.